He stood on the stage, words polished and rehearsed, until his eyes froze on a girl in the crowd, her face a mirror of his own. And beside her, the woman he abandoned. Before we dive into the story, my lovely family, kindly stay connected by clicking the subscribe button, then turn on notification, because we have life-changing stories lined up for you. We don't want you to miss it. Now let's dive in. The city of New York was alive with its usual rhythm. Taxis honking, skyscrapers gleaming under the morning sun. But inside the top floor of the tallest building, silence reigned. Ethan Caldwell sat behind his glass desk. The skyline of Manhattan stretched like a painting behind him. His suit was tailored, his tie perfect, his schedule meticulously managed. Yet, in that silence there was something hollow. He glanced at the clock, then at the rows of files his assistant had placed neatly before him. Numbers, contracts, acquisitions, everything under his control. Everything, except the one thing that gnawed at him in the quiet: loneliness. He leaned back, exhaling as the sound of his assistant's voice cut through the glass walls. "Mr. Caldwell, the university's commencement speech this afternoon? You're confirmed?" Ethan gave a curt nod. "Yes, it won't take long." His tone was firm, clipped, the way he had trained himself to sound in boardrooms. Yet under it there was a weariness. He had delivered countless speeches, sealed billion-dollar deals, and yet the idea of standing before a sea of graduates, smiling for photographs, felt strangely exhausting. It wasn't the speech itself. It was the reminder that life was moving, that people were celebrating new beginnings while his own life felt like a cycle of endings. Across the city, in a quiet neighborhood far from polished skyscrapers, Isabella worked her way through the final touches on her daughter's graduation dress. The small apartment smelled faintly of fresh fabric softener and home-cooked stew. Her hands, though graceful, bore the faint calluses of years spent scrubbing, lifting, and sacrificing. She had once worked in mansions where marble floors reflected chandeliers, where her presence was background, invisible. But here, in this modest apartment, she was everything: provider, comforter, mother. "Mom!" A soft voice called from the bedroom. "Is it ready?" Amelia, 17, stepped into the room, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. The light from the window caught her face, and for anyone with keen eyes, the resemblance would have been undeniable. The high cheekbones, the shape of her smile, even the defiance in her gaze mirrored a man Amelia had never met. Isabella's heart clenched, as it always did when she saw it. She forced a smile. "It's ready. You'll be the most beautiful girl there." Amelia grinned, excitement lighting her features. "I can't believe it's today." Isabella nodded, though a shadow crossed her face. Graduation day meant pride, but it also meant exposure. Crowds, speeches, important guests. And though she told herself the past was buried, a whisper inside warned, the past has a way of finding you when you least expect it. As the morning unfolded, Ethan reviewed his notes for the speech while Isabella carefully packed her daughter's things. Neither imagined that their carefully guarded lives were on a collision course. For Ethan, the ceremony was just another obligation. For Isabella, it was a milestone she had fought and sacrificed for. And for Amelia, it was simply a day of joy, laughter, and dreams of the future. But fate had its own script, and it was about to unfold on that graduation stage. Ethan stared at the speech draft in front of him, his pen tapping restlessly on the polished mahogany. The words were elegant, crafted by his PR team to inspire hope, grit, and ambition in the fresh graduates. But as he read them, they felt hollow. "Dream big. Don't let fear stop you. The future belongs to those who dare." The irony wasn't lost on him. He had built an empire out of daring, but in his private life he had always played it safe, too safe. He avoided ties that might break him, avoided responsibilities that weren't written in contracts. His assistant knocked lightly. "The car will be ready at 1. Would you like me to brief you on the guests?" Ethan waved his hand. "No, just the essentials. Don't overwhelm me with details." "Understood," she replied, slipping a folder onto his desk. On the cover, University of Hartwell, commencement 2025. He slid it aside, uninterested. Another institution, another speech, another polite smile for photographs. What did it matter? Yet a flicker of something, restlessness perhaps, crept in as he imagined the sea of young faces. What did they see in him? A symbol of success? Or a man who had traded too much for power? He rubbed his temples. It's just 2 hours. Deliver the speech, shake a few hands, and leave. Nothing more. But deep down, he couldn't shake the sense that this day would demand more of him than usual. Back in her small apartment, Isabella smoothed out Amelia's graduation gown, her fingers lingering on the silky fabric. She remembered nights when she had scrubbed dishes until her hands blistered, taking extra shifts so Amelia could stay in school. She remembered the whispers behind her back, the gossip about raising a child alone, the judgment that came with being a single mother in a world that valued appearances more than truth. But Amelia had always been worth it. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night. As she packed Amelia's shoes into a bag, her mind betrayed her with a memory, one she hated revisiting. 17 years ago, she had stood in a grand hallway, her heart racing. Ethan Caldwell, then younger, ambitious, magnetic, had brushed past her, his cologne lingering in the air. Their worlds had been impossibly different. She, the maid, he, the master of the house. Yet somehow, for a brief, stolen moment, those worlds collided. She closed her eyes, shaking the memory away. That chapter was over. Amelia didn't need a ghost from the past. She needed a mother who could stand tall. Still, Isabella couldn't ignore the gnawing thought. What if today, of all days, fate decided to remind her of what she'd lost, and what Amelia never knew? Amelia twirled in front of the cracked mirror, her graduation cap slightly too big for her head. She burst into laughter, calling out, "Mom, do I look ridiculous?" Isabella peeked in and smiled softly. "You look perfect. A little more grown up than I'm ready for, but perfect." Amelia rolled her eyes playfully. "You always say that, because it's always true." There was a sparkle in Amelia's eyes that made Isabella's heart ache. She saw in her daughter both strength and innocence, resilience and hope. Amelia dreamed of studying medicine, of helping people, of making a difference. And Isabella wanted nothing more than to protect that dream. But as Amelia adjusted her cap, she grinned. "Do you think there'll be anyone famous at the ceremony? Sometimes they bring important speakers, right?" Isabella forced a calm tone. "Maybe, but remember, it's not about them. It's about you and everything you've achieved." Amelia nodded, but her excitement only grew. She had no idea that her life, and her mother's, was about to change forever. By early afternoon, the campus of Hartwell University buzzed with anticipation. Families streamed in, laughter and chatter filling the air. Proud parents carried cameras, flowers, and balloons. The stage was set with banners that read "Class of 2025. The future is yours." Ethan's black car pulled up near the main entrance. As he stepped out, flashes from cameras greeted him. He slipped on his practiced smile, the one that said confidence without warmth. He was escorted by faculty members who fawned over his achievements, calling him an inspiration. At the same time, Isabella and Amelia joined the flow of families. Isabella held Amelia's hand tighter than necessary, her eyes scanning the crowd nervously. She told herself it was habit, that she was just being protective. But her heart thudded in her chest, uneasy without reason. The distance between them, between Ethan and Isabella, was only a few hundred steps. Two lives that had run parallel for 17 years were now converging on the same stage, under the same sky, before the same crowd. Neither knew it yet, but the countdown had begun. Do you believe fate has a way of forcing people to confront their past, even when they've buried it for years? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The university's courtyard overflowed with chatter and color. Folding chairs stretched in neat rows across the lawn. Ribbons fluttered from lampposts, and the stage was adorned with flowers that glistened under the afternoon sun. Proud families crowded the aisles, clutching programs like treasures. Amelia bounced lightly on her feet, adjusting her cap again. Her laughter rang like a bell as she spotted her friends in the graduate line. Isabella, seated among other parents, smiled, though her grip on her handbag was tight. From the corner of her eye, she caught sight of a black-suited entourage moving toward the stage. A murmur rippled through the audience. "The CEO's here." Isabella's heart stuttered, though she told herself she was imagining it. Surely it wasn't him. After all these years, what were the odds? Ethan climbed the stairs to the stage with measured steps. Every movement rehearsed, every gesture polished. Cameras clicked. Applause thundered. Faculty members smiled as if he were royalty. He nodded, standing behind the podium. From here, the sea of faces blurred together. Thousands of students, families, strangers. He drew in a breath, gripping the sides of the podium. "Graduates," he began, his voice steady. "Today marks not just the end of your studies, but the beginning of a journey that will test your courage, your patience, and your ability to dream." The crowd listened intently, though the words felt strangely distant to him. He glanced down at his notes, then back at the crowd. His gaze swept absently from left to right, a habit, until Isabella shifted in her seat, adjusting Amelia's program in her lap. Her daughter leaned forward, starry-eyed at the famous CEO on stage. "Mom," Amelia whispered, "that's Ethan Caldwell. He's so powerful, so inspiring. Imagine being that successful." Isabella's throat tightened. She couldn't answer. Her eyes, against her will, lifted to the stage. And there he was, older, sharper, his features more defined, but unmistakably him. The man who had once turned her world upside down. The man she had tried to forget. She froze. Panic raced through her veins. "Don't look at him. He won't notice you. You're just one face in the crowd." But then she felt it. The undeniable force of his gaze sweeping in her direction. Ethan's words stumbled for half a second, so small no one else noticed, but to him it was seismic. His gaze had landed on a woman near the middle rows. Something about her posture, the tilt of her head, clawed at his memory. Beside her sat a young girl. He blinked, refocused on the speech, pushed forward with his lines. Success is not a straight path. It is marked by sacrifice, by resilience, by the courage to stand again when you fall. His voice sounded steady, but inside, unease twisted. Who was she? Why did her presence feel like a crack opening in his carefully walled-off world? Meanwhile, Amelia clapped enthusiastically, oblivious to her mother's stiff posture. She whispered excitedly to her friend beside her, "I want to be like him one day, to change the world, to leave a mark." Her eyes glowed with admiration. She didn't see the way her mother's hand trembled on her lap. She didn't notice the way Isabella's eyes darted toward the stage, then away, as though she were fighting an invisible battle. To Amelia, this was the happiest day of her life. She had no idea it was also the most dangerous. As Ethan's speech drew toward its conclusion, applause swelled again. Cameras flashed. He smiled, but his eyes kept flickering back, always back, to that one woman in the crowd. And each time his chest tightened. It can't be her, he told himself. She left years ago. She vanished. It's impossible. But something in his gut said otherwise. And then, just as his gaze threatened to drift one last time, his eyes caught the young girl beside her, laughing. And in that fleeting moment he felt a chill. Because the curve of her smile, the shape of her eyes, he knew them. He had seen them every morning in the mirror. The story was about to break open, but fate held the reveal for just one more act. If you were Ethan, would you walk away from the stage and pretend you saw nothing? Or confront the past right then and there? Share your choice in the comments. Ethan closed his notes, the audience erupting into applause. He nodded politely, shook hands with the dean, and stepped back. Cameras flashed again, but his mind wasn't on them. It was on her, the woman in the crowd who looked like a ghost from another life, and the girl beside her, smiling with the exact tilt of his lips when he was 17. He forced himself to stand straight, to project confidence, but inside, unease grew like a shadow. He had given hundreds of speeches, but none had ever left him feeling this rattled. Isabella clapped along with the others, her movements stiff, mechanical. She couldn't look at Ethan again. She kept her eyes on Amelia, whose face glowed with admiration. But Isabella's mind raced. He saw me. I know he did. God, please don't let him remember. Please don't let him connect the pieces. She tried to breathe normally, but her chest felt tight. Every instinct screamed at her to take Amelia and leave before the ceremony ended. But how could she? Amelia had worked for this moment for years. It was her day. She couldn't ruin it. Her fingers dug into the fabric of her handbag. Just endure. Get through the day. Then disappear again. The graduates filed across the stage, one by one, their names echoing across the speakers. Families cheered. Balloons floated. Laughter filled the air. Amelia's name was called, and Isabella's heart swelled with pride. She leapt to her feet, clapping with all the strength she had. Amelia's smile stretched wide as she shook hands with the dean, the cameras capturing her every move. From the stage, Ethan's eyes caught the girl again. This time, there was no doubt. He froze, not outwardly, but deep inside. Her smile, her walk, even the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. It was like watching his younger self reborn. Ethan's breath hitched. He forced himself to keep his composure, but the realization struck like lightning. She looks like me. The thought slammed into him again, stronger. She is me. And then the pieces clicked. The woman in the crowd, the one he had once. No, he had buried that memory. He had locked it away, convinced it was over. But here she was. And here was the living, breathing proof of what they had shared. Ethan's throat tightened. For the first time in years, the unshakable CEO felt small, vulnerable, undone. The final graduate crossed the stage. Confetti burst into the air, and the courtyard erupted in cheers. Parents hugged their children. Friends snapped photos. Laughter echoed across the lawn. But Ethan barely heard it. His gaze never left the woman and the girl. She tried to blend into the crowd, standing slowly, gathering her daughter's things. But Ethan saw her every move. He watched the way she avoided his eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly. It was her, Isabella, 17 years gone, and now standing before him again, with a daughter who carried his blood. Ethan stepped down from the stage, his heart pounding in his chest. For once, he didn't care about the cameras, the crowd, or the handshakes from the dean. His eyes tracked Isabella like a hunter who had finally found his prey. She felt it too. Her back stiffened, her hand tightening around Amelia's arm. "Mom?" Amelia asked, confused by her sudden tension. Isabella forced a smile. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Let's just go." But before they could slip into the crowd, Ethan's voice cut through the noise. Low, sharp, undeniable. "Isabella." She froze. The sound of her name on his lips after 17 years was like a knife twisting through old wounds. Slowly, she turned. Their eyes met, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, the past and present collided, raw, unprepared, unstoppable. Ethan recognizes Isabella, and the resemblance in Amelia confirms the truth he never expected to face. The crowd thinned as graduates spilled into clusters of family and friends. Laughter, camera flashes, and the rustle of gowns filled the courtyard. But for Ethan, the world had narrowed to one point of focus: Isabella. He pushed past a line of parents shaking his hand, ignoring polite congratulations. His polished smile was gone, replaced by something harder, more urgent. "Isabella." His voice was firmer now, cutting through the noise. She froze again. Amelia tugged at her sleeve, puzzled. "Mom? Do you know him?" Isabella turned slowly, forcing composure. Her voice was soft, clipped. "Mr. Caldwell." The formality in her tone was a shield. Ethan's eyes darkened. "It is you." His gaze flicked to Amelia, lingering, searching, fighting disbelief. "And this?" His throat tightened. "Is she yours?" Isabella's jaw clenched. Her hand slipped protectively to Amelia's shoulder. "She's mine." "Yours?" Ethan repeated, his voice low, almost trembling. His eyes traced Amelia's features again, recognition dawning with painful clarity. For a moment, the noise of the crowd dulled. The three of them stood suspended in an invisible bubble. Amelia's eyes darted between her mother and the man staring at her with unsettling intensity. "Mom," Amelia whispered. "What's going on?" Isabella swallowed hard. Her instinct screamed to run, to protect her daughter from this moment. But Ethan wasn't giving her an escape. "I need to talk to you," Ethan said, his voice harder now, laced with command. "Alone." Isabella straightened, defiance flashing in her eyes. "No, not here. Not today." Amelia looked between them, confusion deepening. "Do you two know each other?" Neither answered. The silence was answer enough. Ethan's heart raced in a way it hadn't in years. Deals worth billions had never shaken him like this. His voice dropped, raw and desperate beneath the edge. "Isabella, don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. Who is she?" Isabella's eyes flashed with pain. "She's my daughter." He stepped closer. "And mine." The question pierced the air like thunder. Isabella's lips parted, but no sound came. Her silence was confirmation enough. Ethan's chest constricted. Rage, guilt, disbelief, all tangled inside him. 17 years. 17 years of not knowing. Do you think Isabella was right to keep Amelia's existence a secret from Ethan for 17 years? Or was Ethan robbed of his right to know? Share your perspective in the comments. Isabella felt Amelia's eyes searching hers, wide with confusion. The girl deserved answers, but not here. Not like this. "Amelia," she whispered gently, "go wait by the fountain with your friends. I'll be right there." "Mom," Amelia began, but Isabella's tone sharpened. "Please." Reluctantly, Amelia obeyed, though not without a backward glance at Ethan, whose eyes never left her. As Amelia walked away, Ethan took a step forward, voice tense. 17 years, Isabella. 17 years you kept her from me." Isabella shot him a look, sharp and burning. "Not here." She led him toward a quieter path behind the auditorium, where the noise of the ceremony faded into distant echoes. The moment they were alone, Ethan's composure fractured. "You knew," he said, voice breaking into a low growl. "You knew and you said nothing." Isabella crossed her arms, shoulders squared. "And what would you have done, Ethan? Tell me. Back then, with your empire to build, your pride, your family's judgment. Would you have claimed her?" His jaw tightened. "She's my daughter. You had no right." Her eyes blazed. "No right? I had no choice. Do you think it was easy raising her alone? Do you think I wanted this?" Her voice cracked, but she held herself firm. "You walked away, Ethan. Not me. You left me in that house with nothing but memories and shame." "I never walked away from you," Ethan shot back, his voice shaking with anger and regret. "I didn't even know. You shut me out, Isabella. You disappeared." Her laugh was bitter, sharp. "Disappeared? Do you remember what happened the night I left? Your mother's words, the threats, the way she looked at me as if I was dirt? I wasn't going to raise a child in a world where she'd be treated as a stain on your name." Ethan froze, his chest heaving. He remembered the venom in his mother's voice, the cruelty of that night. He had buried it under years of success, but now it clawed back. "You could have told me," Ethan whispered harshly, his voice breaking. "You should have told me." "And what then?" Isabella's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "Would you have given up your throne? Would you have chosen me over your empire?" "No, Ethan. You weren't ready. And I wasn't strong enough to fight for a place in your world." The air between them crackled with years of unsaid words. Ethan's fists clenched at his sides. Isabella's chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. Two people torn between rage and the ghosts of a love that once burned. Finally, Ethan's voice softened, though his eyes remained hard. "What's her name?" Isabella's lips parted, trembling. "Amelia." The sound of it broke something inside him. He whispered it back, as if tasting it. "Amelia. His daughter's name. a daughter he never knew existed. His throat constricted. Does she know? Isabella shook her head, tears spilling now. No, she only knows me. She doesn't know you. The words hit harder than any accusation. 17 years lost. 17 years stolen. If you were Amelia, would you want to know the truth right away? Or be shielded from it until your mother felt ready? Comment your thoughts. Mom! The single word made Isabella and Ethan freeze like guilty children caught in the act. Amelia stood a few steps away, holding her gown carefully in her arms, her wide eyes darting between them. What's going on? She asked again, more insistent this time. Isabella wiped at her eyes quickly, hiding the trace of tears. Nothing, sweetheart. Just catching up. Amelia frowned. Catching up? You sounded like you were arguing. Ethan forced his breathing to steady. He was the CEO, the man who could mask anything under control. But here, under his daughter's gaze, his armor cracked. We were discussing something important, he said carefully, his voice gentler than he intended. Something that concerns you, actually. Amelia's brows knit together. Me? Isabella stepped forward quickly, shielding. Not now. Today is your day, Amelia. You don't need to worry about this. But Amelia's eyes narrowed. She was 17, old enough to sense secrets, old enough to be hurt by them. Ethan's gaze lingered on Amelia. Every detail, the shape of her chin, the fire in her eyes, screamed his bloodline. He longed to reach out to claim her. But he saw the fear in Isabella's eyes and stopped himself. Instead, he crouched slightly to Amelia's level, his voice low, searching. You've done something extraordinary today, he said softly. Graduating with your mother by your side. You should be proud. Amelia blinked, caught off guard by his intensity. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Something about the way she said his name, formal, distant, stabbed him. He wanted Dad, but all he had was Mr. Caldwell. He straightened again, jaw tight. We'll talk more later. All of us. His tone carried weight, leaving no room for dismissal. Isabella stiffened, her voice sharp. No, this is not the time, Ethan. But Amelia's eyes widened. Wait, how do you two even know each other? The silence that followed was deafening. Isabella forced a smile, the kind she used when she wanted to shut down questions. Mr. Caldwell and I worked in the same circles a long time ago. That's all. Amelia's face scrunched in curiosity, unconvinced. Circles? Like what circles? Business, Isabella replied quickly. Ethan's eyes burned into her, knowing she was twisting the truth. But he said nothing for now. Amelia studied them both, suspicion rising. But then her friends called out to her from across the courtyard, waving for pictures. Amelia, come on. She hesitated, still looking between them. Go, Isabella urged gently, almost pleading. I'll be right here. Amelia left reluctantly, though her backward glance lingered. When Amelia disappeared into the crowd, Isabella turned back to Ethan, her voice breaking. Do you see now why I kept this from you? She's happy. She's safe. She doesn't need the weight of your world crashing down on her. Ethan's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists. She doesn't need my world. She needs her father. His words struck hard, but Isabella didn't flinch. Her eyes welled with tears, but her spine remained unbroken. No, Ethan. What she needs is stability, love, and a future that isn't tainted by the mistakes of the past. They stood inches apart, the past pressing between them like a wall neither could yet break. Should Amelia discover the truth now, even if it risks shattering her trust? Or is Isabella right to protect her until the time feels safe? Drop your thoughts below. The graduates and their families milled around in noisy celebration, but Ethan and Isabella stood apart, their voices low and sharp, each word charged. I'm not leaving this campus without answers, Ethan said, his tone clipped, commanding. 17 years, Isabella. You owe me that much. Isabella's chin lifted, her pride as fierce as his authority. I owe you nothing. His nostrils flared, but he kept his voice steady. Then owe it to her. She deserves to know the truth. Her eyes burned with pain. And what happens after, Ethan? Do you swoop in, turn her life upside down, claim her as your own like some prize you forgot in storage? She's not a possession. She's a person. She's my daughter. The words cut deep. My daughter. Ethan's chest ached at the phrase, but he didn't back down. She's ours, Isabella. Whether you like it or not. Isabella's hands trembled as she crossed her arms, her voice shaking with anger and fear. Do you remember who you were back then? Cold, ruthless, obsessed with proving yourself to a world that already gave you everything. I couldn't trust you with her. Not then. Ethan's eyes darkened. And now? Silence. The question hung heavy between them. Finally, Isabella whispered, now she doesn't know you exist, and I intend to keep it that way for her sake. Her words ignited something in him. For years, Ethan had been untouchable by boardroom rivals, untouchable by scandal. But this woman, this maid he had once cared for, held power over him he couldn't shake. I'm not walking away, Ethan said finally, his voice low but resolute. Not this time. You can hate me, Isabella. You can despise everything I've done. But I will not let you erase me from her life. Isabella swallowed hard, her defenses faltering for the briefest second. And what if she doesn't want you? What if she resents you for showing up after 17 years? Then I'll earn her trust, Ethan said without hesitation. Every day if I have to. His certainty rattled her. For a fleeting moment, she saw not the ruthless CEO, but the boy who once whispered dreams to her in quiet hallways before everything fell apart. She looked away quickly, gathering her strength. Amelia's laughter echoed nearby as she posed for photos with her friends. Both Ethan and Isabella turned toward the sound, their expressions softening instinctively. Isabella exhaled, shoulders slumping. Not here. Not today. She deserves one day without this hanging over her. Ethan studied her, reading the exhaustion in her eyes, the steel in her voice. After a long pause, he nodded. Fine, but tomorrow we talk. Privately. No more running. Isabella's lips tightened, but she gave the faintest nod. Tomorrow. It wasn't a truce, it was a battle postponed. But it was enough for now. As Amelia ran back toward them, her cheeks flushed from laughter, Ethan straightened his tie, masking his turmoil behind a practiced smile. Mom, can we get ice cream after this? Amelia asked, looping her arm through Isabella's. Her eyes flicked to Ethan. You can come too, Mr. Caldwell. I mean, if you're not busy. Isabella froze. Ethan's heart jolted. For a moment, the possibility hung between them, fragile and surreal. But Isabella forced a laugh. I think Mr. Caldwell has other plans, sweetheart. Ethan's gaze locked with hers. His voice was quiet, but heavy with meaning. Not anymore. Isabella's chest tightened. She knew this was only the beginning. Ethan refuses to leave, and Isabella reluctantly agrees to meet him tomorrow. The spark has detonated, leaving Amelia caught in the middle of a storm she doesn't yet understand. That night, Ethan sat in his penthouse, lights of the city glittering like 1,000 lies below him. A glass of scotch sweated in his hand, untouched. On the coffee table, his phone screen glowed with a single photo from the graduation ceremony. Amelia, smiling with her friends. One of his assistants had sent it, congratulating him on his wonderful speech. But all Ethan could see was her face. His face, his other hand clenched around the armrest, knuckles white. He had built empires, crushed competitors, survived betrayal and scandal. Yet here he was, unraveling at the sight of a 17-year-old girl. His girl, 17 years lost. His chest ached as the number repeated in his head. He raised the glass to his lips, but the burn didn't drown the guilt. Nothing could. Across town, Isabella sat at the small kitchen table of their modest apartment. Amelia had gone to bed, still buzzing with graduation joy, while Isabella stared blankly at the bills scattered before her. She should have been relieved. Her daughter had made it against all odds. But Ethan's reappearance had shattered the fragile peace she'd worked so hard to build. Her hands trembled as she folded a letter she'd written years ago and hidden away. A letter addressed to Ethan, never sent. In it, she had confessed everything. The pregnancy, her fears, her love, her anger. She had written it the night Amelia was born. And every year after, she thought of sending it. But fear always won. Now, seeing him again, fear roared louder than ever. He could ruin everything. He could take Amelia away. She pressed the letter to her chest and whispered, "Please, God, don't let her hate me for this." Meanwhile, Amelia lay in bed, her phone buzzing with celebratory messages. She smiled at first, then frowned, staring at the photo someone had tagged her in. She and her mother, with Ethan in the background. There was something about the way he had been looking at her, intense, almost familiar. "Mom knows him," she whispered into the dark. "She has to." Her chest tightened with questions. Why had her mother dodged every explanation earlier? Who was Mr. Caldwell to them? Amelia bit her lip, torn between confronting her mother or waiting. But one thing was certain, this wasn't over. Back in his penthouse, Ethan paced the room like a caged animal. He should have called his lawyers, demanded answers, taken control as he always did. That was how he handled crises. But this wasn't a crisis. This was a daughter, his daughter. And still, a sliver of denial clung to him. "What if I'm wrong?" he muttered aloud, dragging his hand through his hair. "What if she isn't mine?" He considered DNA tests, legal actions, confrontations. But deep down, he already knew. No test could tell him what his heart screamed. Still, denial was safer than acceptance, for now. Do you think Ethan should push for the truth immediately with a DNA test? Or should he respect Isabella's timing and Amelia's innocence? Share your thoughts below. The next morning, Isabella chose a cafe far from the glass towers of downtown. A quiet place with chipped tables, worn menus, and the comforting hiss of an old espresso machine. She hoped the familiarity of her world might intimidate Ethan, or at least level the ground between them. But when Ethan entered, dressed in a charcoal suit that cost more than her monthly rent, he looked entirely at ease. His presence filled the small cafe, turning heads even from strangers who didn't know his name. Isabella stiffened as he approached. "You came. I said I would," Ethan replied simply, sliding into the chair opposite her. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with restrained intensity. The waiter placed 2 coffees on the table. Neither touched theirs. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Isabella, I'm not here to fight. I just want the truth." Isabella's fingers tightened around her cup. "The truth isn't something you can handle in a single meeting, Ethan." His jaw tightened. "Try me," she exhaled sharply. "Fine. You want the truth? Yes, Amelia is yours. You were her father the moment she took her first breath. But you were also the man who would have lost her. And I wasn't willing to let that happen." Ethan's throat worked as he swallowed hard. He had braced for confirmation, but hearing it aloud still shook him. "And she doesn't know?" Ethan said softly, more statement than question. "No," Isabella admitted. Her voice dropped. "And she won't. Not yet." Ethan's brows knitted. "Why not?" "Because she's happy," Isabella snapped. "Because she doesn't need her world turned upside down by a man who didn't even know she existed." "That wasn't my choice," Ethan bit back. "And it wasn't hers either," Isabella shot back, her voice trembling. She glanced around the cafe, lowered her voice. "You think swooping in now will fix things? You think a DNA test or your money or your name will give her back 17 years? It won't. It'll only confuse her, hurt her, maybe even turn her against me." Ethan stared at her, anger and anguish colliding in his chest. She was right, and yet she was wrong. For the first time, Ethan didn't argue. Instead, he sat back, his hands gripping the edge of the table. "So what do you suggest, Isabella? That I stay away? Pretend I never saw her? Pretend I don't care?" Isabella's lips parted, but no words came. The truth was, she had no plan. She had spent years rehearsing lies, not this confrontation. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know." Her admission caught him off guard. The mighty Isabella, the woman who had stood firm even in his mother's wrath, looked uncertain, fragile. Something inside him softened, against his will. Ethan leaned forward again, his voice steady, though his hands trembled. "I'm not leaving, Isabella. You can push me away, you can hate me, but I'm not walking out of her life. Not again." Isabella's eyes filled, her composure cracking. "You think it's that simple? She trusts me. If she learns I kept you from her..." Her voice broke. "I could lose her." The silence stretched, thick with what neither dared to admit. Both of them were terrified of losing Amelia in different ways. Ethan clenched his fists, fighting the urge to shout, to demand. Instead, he whispered, "Then we'll figure it out. Together." Isabella's head snapped up, her eyes blazing. "Together? After everything?" "Yes," Ethan said firmly, "because she deserves both of us." Isabella's chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. She wanted to deny him, to throw his words back. But for the first time, a sliver of doubt pierced her resolve. "If you were Isabella, would you risk telling Amelia the truth now and face her anger? Or keep protecting her at the cost of Ethan's rightful place? Comment your thoughts." The apartment felt different that evening. Amelia noticed it the moment she walked in from a celebratory dinner with friends. Normally, her mother's smile greeted her like a warm light. Tonight, Isabella's smile was strained, her eyes shadowed with thoughts Amelia couldn't read. Amelia dropped her bag on the couch and studied her mother. "You've been weird since yesterday." Isabella froze, hands hovering over the dishes she'd been washing. "Weird? Yeah, at graduation. That guy, Mr. Caldwell." Amelia crossed her arms, eyebrow raised. "You looked like you'd seen a ghost. And the way he was staring at me? Mom, what's going on?" Isabella forced a laugh. "Sweetheart, it was nothing. Just memories." "Memories?" Amelia echoed skeptically. "Of what?" Isabella turned back to the sink, hoping the clatter of dishes would end the conversation. But Amelia stepped closer, her voice sharp with teenage persistence. "You know him, don't you? More than just business circles." Isabella's chest tightened. "Amelia, let it go." "No," Amelia's voice rose. "You've never kept secrets from me. Why are you keeping this one?" The weight of those words nearly broke Isabella. She had promised herself never to lie to Amelia, and yet here she was, constructing walls of silence. "Some things," Isabella said quietly, "are too complicated to explain in one night." Amelia stared, hurt flashing in her eyes. "Then make me understand." Isabella turned, drying her hands on a towel, forcing calm into her tone. "Mr. Caldwell was part of my past. Past I don't like to revisit. That's all." Amelia tilted her head, studying her. "So why was he looking at me like that?" The question struck like lightning. Isabella's hand tightened on the towel, her throat closing. "Amelia," she whispered, "sometimes people project feelings onto others that have nothing to do with them. Don't read into it." But Amelia wasn't convinced. She'd inherited her mother's sharp intuition, and she could feel the lie in every word. Later that night, Amelia sat on her bed scrolling through her phone. Pictures of graduation flooded her feed. Again and again, she saw Ethan Caldwell in the background, his eyes fixed on her like a shadow. She zoomed in on one photo. The resemblance unsettled her. The shape of his jaw, the intensity in his gaze. She glanced at her own reflection in the mirror. "No," she muttered, shaking her head. "That's crazy." Still, a seed of doubt rooted itself deep inside her. She thought of the unanswered questions about her father, the father her mother never spoke of, and now a stranger who felt too familiar. In the kitchen, Isabella sat at the table with her head in her hands. Her lies had always been told for Amelia's protection, but tonight, they felt heavier, like chains. She thought of Ethan's words at the cafe. "She deserves both of us." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered into the silence. "But will she forgive me?" For the first time, Isabella feared the answer might be no. "Do you think Amelia will discover the truth on her own before her mother tells her? Or should Isabella gather courage and confess first?" Share your take in the comments. 2 days after graduation, Ethan sat in the back of his black sedan, staring at the school gates. His driver glanced at him through the mirror. "Sir, shall I circle again?" Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd been circling for 20 minutes, debating. His world had always been about decisive action, but this was different. Still, the thought of Amelia walking out those gates without knowing who he was gnawed at him like fire. "No," Ethan said finally. "Stop here." The driver obeyed. Ethan stepped out, his polished shoes crunching against the pavement, his heart pounding harder than in any boardroom he'd ever faced. Amelia came out of the building with a cluster of classmates, laughing, her gown exchanged now for a simple summer dress. She spotted him almost immediately. How could she not? His presence demanded attention. Her laughter faltered. "Mr. Caldwell?" she asked cautiously, stepping away from her friends. Ethan forced a smile, his voice low. "Hello, Amelia." She tilted her head, suspicious. "What are you doing here?" "I was in the area." Ethan lied smoothly, though his voice held a tremor. "I thought I'd congratulate you properly." Amelia studied him. Something about the way he said her name felt personal, too personal. Before she could respond, Isabella's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Amelia." Both turned. Isabella stood a few feet away, her face pale but eyes blazing. She had come early, sensing something like this might happen. "Mom," Amelia said, surprised. "Mr. Caldwell was just leaving," Isabella snapped. She walked straight up, positioning herself between Ethan and Amelia like a shield. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Isabella, not here," she hissed under her breath. Her voice carried venom, but her hand trembled slightly as it rested on Amelia's shoulder. Amelia's brows furrowed. "What's going on? Why are you two acting so weird?" "Nothing," Isabella said quickly. "Let's go home." Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "She deserves more than nothing." Isabella's eyes flashed. "Not like this. Not in the middle of the street." Amelia glanced between them, suspicion hardening. "Are you going to tell me the truth or not?" Isabella's grip on her daughter's arm tightened. "We'll talk at home." Amelia looked unconvinced but followed reluctantly. Ethan's chest burned as he watched them walk away, powerless. For a man who had always been in control, the helplessness was unbearable. That night, Isabella found a note slipped under her apartment door. Ethan's handwriting, sharp and deliberate. "You can't keep her from me forever. Tomorrow we talk whether you like it or not." Her hands shook as she read it. She tore the paper in half, then in half again, but the words had already branded themselves into her mind. She sank into a chair, whispering into the empty room. "How much longer can I hold this together?" In her bedroom, Amelia stared at her ceiling, questions multiplying. Mr. Caldwell wasn't just anyone. She could feel it in her bones. The walls of silence were crumbling, and all three of them knew it. Was Ethan right to approach Amelia directly? Or was Isabella right to intercept him before the truth exploded in the wrong place? Drop your opinion in the comments. 2 mornings later, Isabella was at work in the small community library, shelving returned books when her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it until she saw the caller ID, Amelia's school. Her chest tightened as she answered. "Hello, Miss Torres?" The voice on the other end asked gently. "We need you to come in." Amelia fainted during practice for the senior send-off. The world blurred for a second. "What? Is she okay?" "She's stable now, but we've called an ambulance to be safe. We'll meet you at St. James Hospital." Isabella grabbed her bag and ran. When Isabella burst through the sliding glass doors of St. James Hospital, her heart still hammering, she nearly collided with someone already at the front desk. "Ethan." He turned, his expression just as stricken. "You got the call too?" Isabella froze. "How did you?" "I'm her emergency sponsor." Ethan cut in quickly, his voice low but firm. "After graduation, I made sure the school had my number, just in case." Her mouth opened in shock. "You had no right." "I had every right," Ethan said, his eyes flashing. She's my daughter too. Before Isabella could respond, a nurse approached. Are you Amelia Torres's parents? Both froze. The word hung in the sterile air like a loaded weapon. Yes, Ethan said before Isabella could speak. The nurse nodded briskly. She's in observation. Follow me. And just like that, Isabella and Ethan were walking side by side, bound together by circumstance. Amelia lay pale against the white sheets, and Ford dripping steadily beside her. She looked up as her mother entered, relief flooding her face. Mom! Isabella rushed to her side, taking her hand. I'm here, sweetheart. You scared me. Amelia smiled faintly. I'm fine, just dizzy. I skipped breakfast. Isabella's shoulders sagged with both relief and exasperation. You can't do that, Amelia. You have to take care of yourself. Ethan lingered at the foot of the bed, his tall frame suddenly awkward, unsure of his place. Amelia's eyes flicked to him. Mr. Caldwell? What are you doing here? Isabella's breath caught, but before she could answer, Ethan stepped forward. His voice was calm, but carried a warmth Amelia hadn't heard before. I was nearby when I got the call, he said smoothly. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Amelia studied him, suspicion flickering, but also a strange comfort. Hours stretched as doctors ran tests. Isabella sat in a chair beside Amelia, while Ethan paced near the window. At one point, Amelia drifted to sleep, her breaths even and soft. The silence between Isabella and Ethan grew unbearable. You shouldn't have put your number down without telling me, Isabella whispered fiercely, careful not to wake her daughter. Ethan turned, his voice low but sharp. And you shouldn't have kept my daughter from me for 17 years. Isabella's jaw tightened. This isn't the place. No, Ethan agreed, his gaze dropping to Amelia. His voice softened, heavy with regret. But there never seems to be a place, Isabella, so we keep bleeding in silence. The words lodged in her chest. She looked away, blinking hard against tears. Was Ethan right to quietly add himself as Amelia's emergency contact? Or was it a violation of Isabella's boundaries as her mother? Comment what you think. The room was dim when Amelia stirred, her eyelids fluttering open. Isabella leaned forward instantly. Hey, sweetheart, how are you feeling? Amelia groaned softly, then blinked at the 4 taped to her hand. Like I slept for a week. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentler than either of them expected. You gave us quite a scare. Amelia's gaze moved to him, surprised. You stayed. Of course, Ethan said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Isabella opened her mouth to object, but Amelia spoke first. I'm glad. Her words landed heavy in Isabella's chest. For the first time, she saw Amelia looking at Ethan not with suspicion, but with something warmer. Trust. A few hours later, the doctor entered with a clipboard. Good news, her tests are clear. Probably just exhaustion and low blood sugar. She's fine to go home, but she should rest the next couple of days. Relief washed over Isabella. Thank you, doctor. As the doctor handed over the discharge papers, Amelia glanced between her mother and Ethan. Can he come with us? Just for a little while. Isabella froze. Sweetheart, I don't think. Please, Amelia insisted. Her eyes were wide, hopeful. He was here the whole time. Feels, I don't know, safe. Ethan's gaze softened, but he said nothing, leaving the decision to Isabella. Her throat tightened. Against every instinct, she heard herself say, fine, for a little while. The drive home was thick with unspoken tension. Amelia sat in the back seat, chatting lightly about school gossip and her graduation plans, oblivious to the storm between the adults in the front. Ethan drove, his large hands steady on the wheel. Isabella sat stiffly beside him, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the window. At one point, Amelia laughed at something from her phone. The sound filled the car, bright and innocent. Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror, his lips twitching into the faintest smile. Isabella caught it, her chest tightening. This was dangerous. Too easy. Too close. Back at the apartment, Amelia kicked off her shoes and flopped onto the couch. I'm starving. Mom, can we order takeout? Of course, Isabella said, relieved to busy herself. Ethan lingered near the doorway, unsure if he should stay, but Amelia looked up at him. You're staying for dinner, right? He hesitated, then glanced at Isabella. Her eyes warned him to decline, but Amelia's hope was stronger. Yes, he said quietly, if it's okay. Isabella's lips pressed into a thin line. One meal, she said firmly, but in her heart, she already knew one meal wouldn't be enough. Later that evening, the three of them sat around the small dining table with cartons of Chinese food. Felt strange, surreal, almost like a family. Amelia chatted between bites of lo mein, laughing about her friends' college plans. Ethan listened intently, asking questions, encouraging her. Isabella watched, torn between pride and dread. Her daughter was glowing, her laughter unguarded. And Ethan, he looked like a man rediscovering something he didn't know he'd lost. For a fleeting moment, it almost felt right. Too right. And that terrified Isabella more than anything. Is Isabella wrong to fear this fragile sense of family? Or is her caution justified, knowing how easily everything could shatter? What do you think? The next morning, Isabella woke to the sound of clattering in the kitchen. Her heart jumped. Amelia was supposed to be resting. She rushed out, only to freeze at the sight before her. Ethan, sleeves rolled up, was standing at the stove. The smell of sizzling eggs and fresh coffee filled the room. What are you doing? Isabella hissed, her voice sharp but hushed. Ethan didn't even flinch. Making breakfast. She needs something healthy in her system. You didn't sleep much either, you should eat too. Amelia wandered in, hair tousled, eyes bright. Smells amazing. She sat at the table like it was the most normal thing in the world. Isabella, meanwhile, felt like the ground had shifted beneath her. Over breakfast, Ethan was careful not to dominate the table. Instead, he let Amelia talk, asking small, genuine questions. What's your favorite subject? Do you already know where you want to go to college? What's the one thing you've always wanted to try but haven't yet? Amelia's answers flowed, her eyes sparkling. She wasn't used to being asked so much, to being listened to so intently. Isabella noticed the difference, and it scared her. When Amelia stepped away to take a phone call, Isabella leaned close. You're making this harder. Ethan met her gaze steadily. Or maybe I'm showing you what should have been all along. Later, while Amelia napped on the couch, Isabella caught Ethan picking up a framed photo from the shelf. It was Amelia at age 6, missing a front tooth, her smile wide and gap-toothed. Ethan's hand trembled slightly as he held it. 17 years, he murmured. I missed all of this. Isabella's throat tightened. You don't get to rewrite history with a few kind words and home-cooked meals. He set the photo back carefully, his voice low. No, but I can start with today. The sincerity in his tone shook her more than his anger ever had. That afternoon, the bathroom faucet sputtered, leaking across the sink. Isabella sighed, grabbing a rag. But before she could start, Ethan crouched down, rolling his sleeves higher. Got a wrench. She blinked. What? A wrench. Or pliers. I'll fix it. Against her better judgment, she handed him the old toolbox from the closet. Within minutes, Ethan had the leak tightened, the faucet steady again. He wiped his hands on a towel, smirking faintly. Some CEO skills actually transfer to plumbing. Amelia laughed from the couch. See, Mom? He's useful. Isabella shook her head, fighting a smile that threatened to break through. That evening, after Amelia was in bed, Isabella stood on the balcony, arms folded as she looked out at the city lights. Ethan joined her quietly. I shouldn't be here, she whispered. Maybe not, Ethan admitted. But doesn't it feel right? Isabella closed her eyes, the night air cool against her skin. Right doesn't always mean safe. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of 17 years between them. And yet, for the first time in years, Isabella didn't feel entirely alone. Do you think Ethan is truly changing? Or is Isabella right to fear he's only offering a temporary illusion? Share your thoughts in the comments. That weekend, the city was hit by an unexpected summer storm. Heavy rain lashed the windows, and the power flickered before finally cutting out. The apartment plunged into darkness, broken only by the glow of streetlights outside. "Great," Isabella muttered, lighting a candle. "The fridge will be useless if this lasts all night." From the couch, Amelia squealed as thunder cracked overhead. She laughed nervously. "I hate storms." Ethan moved closer, his calm presence grounding. "It's just noise, kiddo. Nothing to worry about." Isabella shot him a look but couldn't deny that Amelia instantly relaxed. A loud drip echoed from the kitchen. Isabella groaned. "Not again." She grabbed a pot, placing it under the new leak that had sprung from the ceiling. The storm was pushing the building's old plumbing to its limits. Ethan rolled his sleeves. "Where's the ladder?" "You don't have to." "Where's the ladder, Isabella?" Grudgingly, she pointed him toward the closet. Within minutes, Ethan was perched on the ladder, flashlight in hand, trying to redirect the drip with makeshift patches. Isabella steadied the ladder, her hand brushing his leg as she held it firm. For a moment, their eyes met. Something unspoken flickered between them. Trust, memory, longing. By the time the leak was contained, both of them were damp and laughing softly at the ridiculousness of balancing pots and towels. Amelia watched from the couch, her eyes wide. "You guys are good at this," she said, voice laced with curiosity. "Like you've done it before." Isabella froze. Ethan glanced at her, then back at Amelia. His voice was calm, steady. "Some teams don't forget how to work together." Even after a long time, Amelia tilted her head, sensing more beneath the words. With no power, they ate sandwiches by candlelight. Amelia teased them about their romantic lighting, and Isabella nearly choked on her water. Ethan smirked, clearly enjoying her discomfort. But as the night wore on, a softer mood settled. The storm raged outside, but inside, the three of them huddled together, talking and laughing. For the first time in years, Isabella felt the fragile outline of something she'd long buried, belonging. Later, after Amelia had gone to bed, Isabella lingered in the living room, blowing out candles. Ethan stayed too, watching the rain ease into a gentle drizzle. "You still hum when you're nervous," he said suddenly. Isabella froze, realizing she had been softly humming under her breath. "You remember that?" He stepped closer, his voice low. "I remember everything." Her chest tightened, old feelings rising dangerously close to the surface. For a moment, it felt like he might say the words they'd both been avoiding, words that could change everything. But Isabella turned away, blowing out the last candle. "Good night, Ethan." The darkness swallowed them, leaving both aching with what was left unsaid. Do you think Ethan and Isabella should finally talk about their past now? Or is the timing still too raw with Amelia caught in the middle? Drop your thoughts below. A few days after the storm, Isabella decided to clean out the hall closet. She wanted order, control, anything to quiet the storm inside her heart. But as she sorted through old boxes, Amelia crouched beside her and pulled out one Isabella hadn't seen in years. A small cardboard container with faded handwriting across the top. College years. Amelia opened it eagerly, ignoring Isabella's sharp inhale. Inside were old photos, journals, and letters, relics from a time before Amelia was born. "Wow, Mom," Amelia said, flipping through pictures of a younger Isabella in uniform. "You were gorgeous, and so serious looking." Isabella reached for the box, panic rising. "That's not for..." But Amelia had already pulled out one photo that made Isabella's blood run cold. It was of her, laughing in the kitchen of a mansion, flour dusting her cheek. And behind her, captured mid-smile, stood Ethan. Amelia stared at the photo, her jaw dropping. "Wait a second, Mr. Caldwell? He was there, back then." Isabella swallowed hard, her hands trembling. "Amelia, put it away." "No," Amelia's voice shook, eyes wide. "This isn't just some business thing, is it? You knew him. You really knew him." Isabella closed her eyes. "Yes." The word hung heavy in the air. Amelia's voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Before Isabella could form an answer, the front door opened. Ethan stepped in. Amelia had invited him earlier for help with her college applications. He froze at the sight of the photo in Amelia's hands. His face paled. "Where did you get that?" "From Mom's box," Amelia said, her voice sharp. She turned to him, anger and confusion swirling in her eyes. "What is going on? Why are you in pictures with my mother?" Isabella's lips parted, but no sound came. Ethan's gaze locked with hers, pleading silently. "It's time." Ethan sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving Amelia's. "Your mom used to work in my family's home. She was more than just staff. She was kind. She was brave. She was the only one who treated me like a person, not just a name." Amelia's breath hitched. "So you were friends?" The word felt too small, too insufficient. Ethan's eyes flickered with memory, with longing. "Yes, friends." But Amelia wasn't convinced. She could feel it, the weight of something unspoken pressing down on all three of them. She crossed her arms. "You're not telling me everything." Isabella looked down, shame burning through her. Ethan's voice was quiet, heavy. "No, we're not." That night, after Amelia had gone to her room in tears, Isabella sat at the kitchen table, her head in her hands. "You forced my hand," she whispered to Ethan. He leaned on the counter, weary. "She was bound to find out eventually." "Not like this," Isabella said bitterly. "Not with pieces and half-truths. She deserves the whole story, or none at all." Ethan's voice broke. "Then give her the whole story, Isabella. She deserves to know who she is, and we deserve to stop drowning in silence." Isabella looked up, eyes brimming with tears. "And if the truth destroys her trust in me?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice softer now. "Then at least it's honest. And maybe, just maybe, it sets us free." Should Isabella tell Amelia the entire truth now, even if it risks breaking her daughter's trust? Or keep protecting her until the right moment? Comment your thoughts. Sleep didn't come easily for Isabella that night. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, while memories she had fought for years to bury clawed their way back. The year was 2006. She was 19, working as a maid in the Caldwell estate. Every day, she polished silver, scrubbed marble floors, and kept her head down. She had been warned. Staff should be invisible. But one boy refused to let her be invisible. Ethan Caldwell, then only 21, heir to the empire, already restless with the gilded cage of his life. One afternoon, she had been balancing a tray of tea in the library when a stack of books teetered from the ladder. Ethan caught them in time, his hands brushing hers. "You're new," he said with a half-smile. Isabella lowered her eyes. "Yes, sir." "Don't call me that," he said quickly. "I'm Ethan." She hesitated. "Mr. Caldwell." He leaned closer, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. "If you keep calling me that, I'll start calling you Your Highness." Despite herself, Isabella laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in months. Weeks passed. Their paths crossed more often. Too often. In the kitchen, the gardens, the quiet halls at night. Ethan asked her about her dreams, her favorite books, the music she loved. "Don't you get lonely here?" he asked one evening, perched on the kitchen counter while she washed dishes. "All the time," she admitted before she could stop herself. His gaze softened. "Me too." Those two words built a bridge neither of them meant to cross, but eventually, they did. It wasn't supposed to happen. He was the heir, she was the help. Their worlds weren't meant to collide. But nights turned into whispered conversations, and whispered conversations turned into touches, and touches turned into something deeper. One rainy evening, in the empty library, Ethan pressed his forehead against hers. "I don't care what they say. I don't care about the rules." Tears burned in her eyes. "You should." But when his lips brushed hers, every rule shattered. It didn't last. Secrets never do. The Caldwell family discovered their closeness, and Isabella was dismissed without warning. Ethan begged his father. "She's not just staff. She's everything." But his father's voice was cold. If you care about your future, you'll forget her. Isabella left that night with nothing but a small suitcase and a broken heart. Weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. She never told Ethan. The flashback dissolved as Isabella found herself at the kitchen table, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ethan sat across from her, silent but watchful. "You remember," she whispered. "I never forgot," Ethan said hoarsely. "Not one moment." Her voice cracked. "They threw me out like I was dirt, and I was too scared to tell you. Too scared they'd ruin you too." Ethan's hand clenched into a fist. "You should have trusted me." "Maybe," Isabella whispered, "but I trusted myself to raise her, and I did. Alone." Ethan's anger softened into grief. "And I missed everything. Her first steps, her first words, her whole life." The silence between them was raw, filled with 17 years of love, regret, and choices neither could undo. Do you believe Isabella was right to protect Amelia by keeping Ethan out? Or did she rob him of the chance to be the father he could have been? Share your opinion. The next morning, Amelia sat cross-legged on her bed, her laptop open in front of her. She wasn't scrolling through social media or doing homework. She was researching. She typed, "Ethan Caldwell family history." Hundreds of articles and images popped up. Most were glossy business features, but Amelia zeroed in on one, a society column from 2006. The photo showed a younger Ethan at a gala, handsome in his tuxedo but with eyes that looked strangely hollow. She compared it to the photo she'd found in her mother's box, the one where he was smiling at Isabella in the kitchen. The difference was staggering. Her chest tightened. That's not a business connection. That's something else. That evening, Amelia sat at the dinner table, untouched food on her plate. Isabella noticed immediately. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Amelia lifted her gaze, sharp and unwavering. "How long were you going to keep lying to me?" Isabella froze, fork slipping from her hand. "What do you mean?" Amelia's voice rose, trembling with hurt. I know you and Mr. Caldwell weren't just friends. You were more, weren't you?" Ethan, who had come by to drop off some papers Amelia needed for college, stood rooted in the doorway, his face pale. Isabella's lips parted, but no words came. She saw the betrayal etched into her daughter's face, and her chest caved in. "You're my mother," Amelia said, tears welling. "You're supposed to tell me the truth, about everything." Ethan stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "Amelia, listen." But she cut him off. "No, I want to hear it from her." The room fell silent except for the storm of emotion swirling between them. Isabella realized there was no hiding left. The truth demanded to be spoken. Isabella's hands shook as she reached across the table, but Amelia pulled back. "Yes," Isabella whispered, her voice breaking. "Ethan and we were in love 17 years ago, but his family didn't approve. They made sure we couldn't be together. And then, I found out I was pregnant." Amelia gasped, her chair scraping back. "So he's?" Isabella nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Yes, Ethan is your father." The words shattered the air. Amelia staggered back, her hand flying to her mouth. She looked at Ethan, searching his face for confirmation. His eyes brimmed with emotion. "It's true. I should have been there. I didn't know. And I can never forgive myself for missing so much of your life." Amelia's tears spilled over. "All this time, you let me think I didn't have a father. You let me believe I wasn't wanted." Isabella sobbed. "No, sweetheart. I wanted you. I've always wanted you. I thought I was protecting you. But you weren't," Amelia cried. "You were protecting yourself." The words sliced through Isabella's heart. Ethan reached toward Amelia, his voice trembling. "You were wanted, Amelia, more than you'll ever know. And I want to be here now, if you'll let me." Amelia's chest heaved as she looked between them, her world turned upside down. She didn't answer. She just ran to her room, slamming the door behind her. If you were Amelia, would you forgive Isabella for hiding the truth? Or would the years of silence feel too heavy to let go? Share in the comments. The apartment felt like a tomb. Behind her bedroom door, Amelia played music softly, loud enough to block voices, but not enough to hide her muffled sobs. Isabella sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug gone cold. Ethan stood by the window, fists clenched, staring at the city lights as if answers could be found there. Finally, Isabella whispered, "She won't talk to me. She won't even look at me." Ethan turned, his expression raw. "What did you expect? 17 years of secrets don't vanish in one night." Her shoulders slumped. "I was trying to protect her, to protect us." Ethan's voice sharpened. "From what? From knowing she had a father who would have moved heaven and earth for her? From knowing that the only woman I ever—" He stopped himself, breath ragged. Isabella's eyes flickered. "Don't." But Ethan stepped closer, his control fraying. "You think you were protecting her, Isabella, but you were protecting yourself. You didn't want to risk them hurting you again, so you made the choice for both of us." Her hands trembled. "Do you think it was easy? Do you think I didn't cry every night, wondering if I'd made the wrong choice?" The pain in her voice silenced him. For the first time, he saw not the strong, guarded woman she had become, but the 19-year-old girl who had been forced to carry everything alone. Isabella's tears spilled. "I raised her with nothing, Ethan. No inheritance, no empire, no safety net. Every meal, every pair of shoes, every school fee. I fought for it. Alone. Do you have any idea how heavy that was?" Ethan's chest ached. Slowly, he sat across from her, his voice gentler. "No, I don't. And I'll never forgive myself for not being there to share that weight." Her eyes lifted to his, shining. "I hated you for years. Not because of what you did, but because you weren't there. Because when Amelia asked why she didn't have a dad, I didn't know what to say." Ethan's hand twitched on the table, aching to reach for hers. But he stopped, afraid the gesture would break what little trust remained. Silence stretched, heavy with 17 years of unspoken words. Finally, Ethan whispered, "Do you ever think about what could have been? If we hadn't been torn apart?" Isabella's throat tightened. "Every day. But it doesn't matter now. Too much has been lost." His voice cracked. "Then why does it still feel like nothing has changed?" Her heart stuttered. Because it was true. The fire was still there, buried under years of ashes. And that terrified her more than anything. Behind her door, Amelia had pulled off her headphones hours ago. She sat on the floor, knees hugged to her chest, listening to every word. The anger inside her warred with something else, something softer. The truth was messy, painful, but it was truth. And beneath it all, she could hear one undeniable thing in both their voices. Love. For her, for each other, for what could have been. Should Amelia open her door and join the conversation now? Or is it better for her to take more time to process before facing them? Let me know in the comments. The apartment was unusually quiet the next morning. Isabella moved about the kitchen with slow, tired motions, her eyes red from a night without sleep. Ethan lingered near the doorway, hesitant. From the hallway, Amelia finally emerged, hair messy, face pale but resolute. She slid into a chair without looking at either of them. "Morning," she said, voice soft but edged with steel. Isabella exhaled shakily. "Morning, sweetheart." Ethan offered a tentative smile. "Morning, Amelia." She didn't return it. The silence stretched until Amelia finally muttered, "I don't know how to feel about all of this." Isabella's hands tightened around her coffee cup. "You don't have to decide right away. Take all the time you need." Amelia's gaze flicked to Ethan. "But I don't even know who he is, except for newspaper articles. And that's not enough." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then let me show you. Not the CEO version. Just me. Whoever that is now." Amelia studied him, skeptical but curious. "And why would I trust you?" His voice softened. "Because I don't want to waste another day pretending you're not my daughter." Later that day, Ethan invited Amelia to take a walk in the park nearby. Isabella insisted she go too, unwilling to let them be alone yet. The three of them walked in awkward silence until Amelia suddenly asked, What was Mom like back then, when you knew her?" Ethan glanced at Isabella, who looked ready to protest, but Amelia's eyes demanded an answer. He smiled faintly. She was stubborn, fiercely independent, always humming when she worked, and she made the world feel lighter. Amelia's lips twitched as she glanced at Isabella. "You still hum when you're stressed, Mom." For the first time in days, Isabella laughed softly. They stopped at a corner stand for ice cream, a habit Amelia and Isabella had kept since she was little. Ethan insisted on paying. "2 scoops," Amelia said firmly. "Mint chocolate chip." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That was my favorite when I was your age." She blinked. "Seriously? Seriously?" For the first time, Amelia laughed. "Okay. That's weird." They ate on a bench, and for a moment it felt almost normal. Almost like family. That evening, Amelia retreated to her room but left the door cracked for the first time. Isabella lingered in the living room, but Ethan paused outside Amelia's door. "Good night," he said softly. Amelia hesitated, then whispered back, "Good night, Dad." The word was fragile, trembling, but real. Ethan pressed his eyes shut, a single tear sliding down his cheek. In the living room, Isabella heard it. Her heart twisted, torn between relief and terror at what this meant for all of them. Do you think Amelia should let Ethan into her life quickly? Or should she take it slow to truly trust him after so many lost years? Drop your thoughts below. Later that week, Amelia went to a friend's house for a study group. For the first time in days, Ethan and Isabella were alone in the apartment. The air between them was thick, almost too quiet. Isabella busied herself with folding laundry, refusing to meet his eyes. "You don't have to keep doing that," Ethan said gently. She frowned. "Doing what?" "Hiding behind chores." He stepped closer. "You've been carrying the world alone for 17 years. You don't have to anymore." Her throat tightened. "I don't know how not to." He hesitated, then reached for a folded towel. Their hands brushed, sparking something raw, something dangerous. They ended up on the couch, neither quite sure how. The silence stretched until Isabella finally whispered, "I hated you for so long, but I also missed you, and that confused me more than anything." Ethan's voice cracked. "I missed you too, every day. I used to wonder if you ever thought about me, or if I just imagined what we had." Isabella's eyes glistened. "It was real, too real. That's what scared me." He leaned closer, his voice barely audible. "Then maybe it's not too late." Her breath caught. For a moment, their faces were inches apart, old fire burning bright. But Isabella pulled back, shaking her head. "It's complicated now. It's not just us anymore. It's Amelia." Ethan nodded, swallowing his longing. "Then we take it slow. For her." The next morning, Amelia surprised them both. She entered the kitchen carrying 3 mugs of hot cocoa, her awkward smile betraying how hard this was for her. "I thought, maybe we could have breakfast together, like normal people." Isabella blinked, touched. Ethan smiled softly. "I'd like that." They sat together, clumsy at first, but Amelia started telling them stories about her teachers, her friends, her plans for graduation. Ethan listened like every word was treasure, and Isabella watched, torn between pride and fear. Later that day, Ethan offered to drive Amelia to her study group. Isabella insisted on coming along, but Amelia said, "No, Mom, just him. It's fine." Isabella froze, heart lurching, but Ethan gave her a reassuring nod, and she reluctantly agreed. During the drive, Amelia stared out the window before finally speaking. "You know, I used to imagine my dad was out there somewhere, that he wasn't dead or gone, just waiting. I even used to draw pictures of him." Ethan's grip on the wheel tightened. "What did he look like?" Amelia smiled faintly. "Kind. Someone who'd listen. Someone who'd show up." She glanced at him. "Will you?" Ethan's voice broke. "Yes, every day if you'll let me." That evening, Isabella found Ethan in the kitchen, washing dishes after dinner. She leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "You don't have to do that," she said softly. He smiled without turning. "I want to. feels good, ordinary. For a moment, she just watched him, the domesticity tugging at something deep inside her. Then she whispered, "She's starting to trust you. Don't break her heart." He turned, meeting her gaze with quiet intensity. "I won't. Not hers. Not yours either." The words lingered in the air, more dangerous than any touch. A few days later, the three of them went to the park again. Amelia ran ahead, chasing after a group of kids flying kites, leaving Ethan and Isabella on a bench together. "She looks so free," Ethan murmured, eyes soft. Isabella smiled faintly. "That's all I ever wanted for her. Freedom." He turned toward her. "And what about you? Don't you deserve that too?" Her lips trembled. "Maybe, but freedom feels risky. Every time I think about opening up again, I remember how much it hurt to lose you." Ethan reached out, his hand brushing hers on the bench. "Then maybe this time, I'll make sure you don't lose me." Her heart stuttered, but she didn't pull away. That night, the three of them cooked dinner together. Amelia chopping vegetables, Isabella stirring the pot, Ethan setting the table. Laughter filled the apartment as Amelia made jokes about Ethan's clumsy attempts at dicing onions. "Guess CEOs don't chop onions much," she teased. "Only when it's a hostile takeover," Ethan quipped back, making Amelia laugh so hard she nearly dropped the knife. Isabella stood at the stove, watching them, her chest tightening. For the first time, she could see it, what it might look like to let them both in, to stop running, to stop hiding. And for the first time in years, hope scared her more than fear. "Do you think Isabella should give Ethan another chance at love now? Or keep the walls up until Amelia is fully ready?" Share your take below. It was Amelia's idea. "We never do anything fun together. Let's have a game night." She pulled an old board game from the closet and set it up on the coffee table. Isabella laughed, shaking her head. "We haven't played this in years." Ethan smirked. "I should warn you, I'm highly competitive." Within minutes, the room was filled with laughter, teasing, and playful accusations of cheating. Ethan leaned forward, mock serious. "Amelia, if you sabotage me one more time, you're grounded." Amelia rolled her eyes. "You can't ground me. You just got here." But she was smiling as she said it. Isabella caught the exchange, her heart swelling. After Amelia went to bed, Isabella lingered in the living room, cleaning up the game pieces. Ethan stayed behind, helping her. "You looked happy tonight," he said softly. She hesitated. "It was nice, like we were a family." Ethan's gaze held hers, deep and searching. "That's because we are. We always were. We just lost the chance to see it." Her breath caught, emotion rising dangerously close. "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" he whispered. "Because it's true? Or because you still feel it too?" The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Later, unable to sleep, Isabella stepped onto the small balcony. The city stretched out before her, lights twinkling like stars. Ethan joined her quietly, offering a blanket for her shoulders. "Cold?" She nodded faintly. "Always." He draped it over her, his fingers brushing her arm. They stood side by side, the quiet hum of traffic below them. Finally, Isabella whispered, "What if this doesn't last? What if she hates us for trying? What if we lose her?" Ethan's voice was steady. "Then we fight for her. Together. No more running. No more silence." Her chest tightened at the word together. The city air was cool, and the tension between them burned hot. Ethan turned toward her, eyes soft but fierce. "You don't have to be strong all the time, Isabella. Let me share the weight." Her lips parted, her defenses slipping. He leaned closer, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. For a heartbeat, she didn't. Their breath mingled, the space between them electric. But at the last second, Isabella stepped back, shaking her head. "I can't. Not yet." Ethan's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "I'll wait." Inside, Amelia had crept out of her room for water. She saw them on the balcony, saw the almost kiss, the closeness, the way her mother looked at him. She pressed her lips together, torn. Part of her longed for this, for the father she had dreamed of and the love her mother had buried. But another part of her felt fear. If this fell apart, if he left again, could any of them survive the shatter? She padded back to her room, whispering into the dark, "Please don't hurt us." Do you think Isabella made the right choice by pulling back from the kiss? Or should she have taken the leap and trusted her heart? Comment what you would have done. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Isabella was at work. Amelia was home studying, and Ethan had come by to check on her. The knock on the door was sharp, commanding. When Amelia opened it, a tall man in a tailored suit stood there, his expression cold. "I'm looking for Mr. Ethan Caldwell," he said. Amelia hesitated. "He's here. Who are you?" Before Ethan could step in, the man introduced himself. Arthur Caldwell, his father. Ethan froze. His father's presence felt like ice in the room. Amelia blinked, confused, before stepping aside. Arthur didn't waste time. 17 years, Ethan. And this is what you've been hiding from me? A maid's child. Amelia stiffened, the words cutting deep. Ethan's hands curled into fists. "Don't you dare talk about her like that." Arthur's voice dripped with disdain. "Do you have any idea what this would do to the family name? To the company? To everything I built?" Amelia's face paled. She turned toward Ethan, eyes wide. "Is that how he sees me? Is that how they'll all see me?" Ethan tried to speak, but Amelia shook her head, retreating into her room, slamming the door. By the time Isabella came home, Amelia was locked in her room, sobbing, and Ethan was pacing the living room, his father's words still echoing. "What happened?" Isabella demanded. Ethan's jaw was tight. "My father showed up." Isabella's face drained of color. "No. He knows," Ethan said bitterly. "And he made sure Amelia knows exactly what he thinks of her." Isabella's voice broke. "Oh God." Later, when Amelia finally emerged, her eyes were swollen, her voice hoarse. She glared at both of them. "Is this what my life is going to be now? People calling me a mistake? An embarrassment?" "Amelia, no," Ethan said quickly. "You're not." But she cut him off. "Then why does it feel like it? Why did your family throw Mom out like garbage? Why do they still look at us like dirt?" Isabella reached for her, but Amelia stepped back. "You should have told me, both of you, before I found out like this." Her words cut sharper than any knife. After Amelia stormed back to her room, Ethan and Isabella turned on each other. "This is exactly why I kept her from you," Isabella cried. "Because I knew this would happen. Your family was poison then, and they're poison now." Ethan's eyes blazed. "And you think shutting me out for 17 years was better? Do you know how much damage that did to her? To us? She's my daughter," Isabella snapped. "I was the one here, raising her, protecting her, loving her. You weren't. And that wasn't my choice," Ethan roared. The room shook with the weight of all they'd buried. That night, Amelia slipped out. Isabella discovered her room empty. The window cracked open. A note left behind. "I need space. Don't come after me." Isabella's heart seized. "No, no, no, no." Ethan grabbed his keys. "We'll find her." But Isabella shoved at his chest, her voice breaking. "This is your fault. If you hadn't brought your father into this." "My fault," Ethan snapped. "I didn't invite him here. He's been watching me, waiting. But you." He stopped himself, shaking his head. Isabella's sobs filled the silence. Meanwhile, Amelia wandered the city streets, tears streaking her cheeks. She walked aimlessly, clutching her backpack, replaying every word her grandfather had said. A maid's child. The phrase burned into her brain. She sat on a bench near the river, staring at her reflection in the dark water. "Who am I, really?" she whispered. For the first time in her life, she felt truly lost. Ethan and Isabella searched the city, their anger momentarily set aside in the face of fear. "She can't be out here alone," Isabella whispered, her voice trembling as they combed the streets. Ethan's hand hovered near hers, resisting the urge to take it. "We'll find her, I promise." But Isabella's eyes were full of doubt. You can't promise that. Not anymore. Hours passed with no sign of Amelia. They returned to the apartment, defeated, hollow. Isabella collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. She hates me. She hates us. Ethan's voice was ragged. She doesn't hate you. She's just broken, like we are. She lifted her head, her eyes blazing. Then maybe this was a mistake. Letting you in, letting her hope. We should have stayed hidden. Safe. Ethan's chest tightened. You don't mean that. But the silence that followed told him she did, or at least part of her did. And that silence was worse than any words. Do you think Amelia is right to run away and take space? Or is she making the situation more dangerous for herself and everyone else? Let me know your thoughts. Amelia wandered until her feet ached. The city looked different at night, colder, sharper, less forgiving. She bought a bus ticket with the cash in her backpack and rode to a quiet suburb, far from the glittering skyline. At a gas station, she sat with a paper cup of coffee, trying to steady her shaking hands. Around her, strangers came and went, none noticing the 17-year-old girl holding herself together with fraying threads. Maybe I shouldn't go back, she thought bitterly. Maybe they're better off without me. Her phone buzzed with missed calls. Dozens from her mother, a handful from Ethan. She couldn't bring herself to answer. Inside her notebook, Amelia scribbled furiously. Dear Amelia, you wanted a dad. You wanted answers. Well, you got them. And now you're more confused than ever. Maybe you're not good enough for either world. Not rich enough for his, not strong enough for hers. Her pen dug into the paper, tears blurring her vision. She tore the page out, crumpled it, and threw it in the trash. But the ache remained. Back at the apartment, Ethan sat in the dark, his head in his hands. This is my fault, he muttered. She wouldn't have run if I hadn't come into her life. Isabella stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself. Her voice was brittle. Don't you dare put this all on yourself. You're not the only one who made mistakes. He lifted his head, eyes blazing. But I should have protected her from him, from my father. I should have seen this coming. And what would you have done? Isabella snapped. You can't fight the Caldwells. You never could. The venom in her tone cut deep, reopening scars from years ago. You think I didn't try? Ethan's voice cracked. You think I didn't fight for you back then? I begged him, Isabella. I told him I loved you, and he laughed in my face. Isabella's breath hitched. And then you let me go. I was 21, Ethan shouted. I had nothing, no power, no control. You think I didn't hate myself for it? That I don't still. Her silence was sharper than any blade. He slammed his fist against the wall, trembling with rage and regret. At the gas station, Amelia overheard a group of teens talking about their parents. Complaints about rules, about curfews, about feeling smothered. She wanted to scream at them. At least you have parents. At least you don't have to wonder if you were a mistake. She slipped out, walking aimlessly again, until she stumbled into a small church with its doors still open. The quiet inside wrapped around her like a blanket. Sitting in the back pew, she whispered into the silence. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know where I belong. Back home, Isabella finally crumbled. She sank to the floor, sobbing into her hands. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't lose her. She's all I have. Ethan knelt beside her, his own tears streaming. She's not all you have. You have me. If you'll let me. She looked at him, broken. But what if you leave again? What if I let you in and it destroys us both? His hand hovered over hers, desperate but unsure. Then I'll prove to you I won't. Even if it takes the rest of my life. But Isabella turned away, unable to believe it. Not yet. As dawn crept through the stained glass, Amelia rose from the pew, exhaustion pulling at her bones. She pulled out her phone, staring at her mother's name on the screen. Her thumb hovered, trembling. Part of her wanted to run forever. But another part, the part that still longed for family, ached to go home. She whispered, Please don't let this break us, before finally pressing call. Do you think Amelia should forgive them and go home now? or stay away longer to find her own identity before facing Ethan and Isabella again. Share your heart. When Isabella's phone lit up at dawn, her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped it. She answered breathlessly, "Amelia? Sweetheart." "Mom!" Amelia's voice cracked. I want to come home." Tears streamed down Isabella's face. "Where are you?" Amelia gave the name of the church. Within minutes, Isabella and Ethan were in the car, racing through quiet streets. They found her sitting on the steps of the church, clutching her backpack, looking small and worn. Isabella ran to her, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "Don't ever scare me like that again," Isabella sobbed into her hair. Amelia clung to her, whispering, "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know how to handle it." Ethan stood a step back, his eyes wet, his chest tight. "Amelia," she looked at him, hesitant but steady. "I don't hate you, either of you. I just need time." He nodded, voice hoarse. "You can have all the time you need." Back at the apartment, the air was fragile, tentative. Amelia retreated to her room, exhausted, while Isabella and Ethan sat at the kitchen table, the weight of everything pressing down. "We can't keep doing this," Isabella whispered. "Every time we try to build something, it breaks." Ethan leaned forward. "That's because we're building on 17 years of pain. We need a foundation, honesty, trust, a choice to stop running." Her eyes filled. "But what if she never forgives us? What if she never accepts you?" "Then I'll still stay," Ethan said firmly. "Because this isn't just about being her father. It's about us too." Isabella's head snapped up, fire flashing in her eyes. "Us? Don't you dare make this about us. You left me once. You didn't fight hard enough. And now you come back and expect me to believe in some fairy tale ending." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You think I don't know I failed you? That I don't hate myself for it? But I'm here now, and all you do is push me away." Her voice shook. "Because I'm terrified. If I let myself love you again and you leave, it will destroy me. It will destroy her." The silence after her confession was deafening. Ethan rose, pacing, his chest heaving. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe I don't deserve either of you." Isabella flinched at his words, her heart cracking open. He stopped, his voice breaking. "But tell me one thing, Isabella. Do you still love me?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. The silence was answer enough. Ethan's shoulders slumped, and he walked to the door. "I'll give you space. Both of you." The door closed behind him, leaving Isabella trembling, her tears falling into her shaking hands. From the hallway, Amelia had heard every word. She stepped into the kitchen, her eyes red but fierce. "Mom," she whispered. Isabella looked up, broken. "I've ruined everything." But Amelia shook her head. "No, you're just scared. But he's scared too. And I don't think either of you will survive if you keep pretending you don't love each other." Isabella stared at her daughter, stunned. For the first time, Amelia looked not like a child, but like someone wiser than her years. Do you think Isabella should run after Ethan now and admit the truth about her feelings? Or let him have the space he asked for? What would you do in her place? Ethan drove aimlessly through the city until he ended up at his office tower. Empty, silent, cold. He sat in his corner office, staring at the skyline he once believed was everything. But all the power, all the money, all the recognition meant nothing compared to the ache in his chest. He pressed his palms to his face, whispering, "I can't lose them. Not again." On his desk sat a photo from a recent company gala, his smile polished and empty. He pushed it away, disgusted. That man, the untouchable CEO, felt like a stranger now. Back at the apartment, Isabella sat at the kitchen table with a mug of untouched tea. Her hands trembled as she replayed every word Ethan had said. "Do you still love me?" She did. She always had. But admitting it felt like opening a wound she'd stitched closed with 17 years of silence. Amelia sat across from her, quiet but watchful. Finally, she said softly, "Mom, what if he doesn't come back?" Isabella's eyes brimmed with tears. Then I'll know I was right not to trust him. But the hollow ache in her chest betrayed her words. That night, Amelia sat on her bed, phone in hand. She scrolled through the dozens of unanswered messages from Ethan. Finally, she opened a blank message and typed, "Don't give up on us." She's scared. I'm scared too. But we need you. Her finger hovered before pressing send. Ethan, alone in his office, felt his phone buzz. When he read the message, his throat tightened. His daughter was asking him to stay. The next morning, Ethan texted Amelia privately, "Meet me for breakfast? Just us." Amelia hesitated but agreed. At the cafe, she sat across from him, wary but curious. "I'm sorry about what my father said." Ethan began quietly. "He doesn't define you, or me, and he sure as hell doesn't get to decide what kind of family we are." Amelia studied him, her eyes glistening. "But what if Mom never forgives you? What if she never lets you back in?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Then I'll wait, as long as it takes, because both of you are worth it." For the first time, Amelia smiled. A small, fragile smile, but real. At home, Isabella pulled out an old box from the back of her closet. Inside were remnants of the past. A faded photo of her and Ethan from years ago, a crumpled note he had written, a bracelet he'd given her. Her fingers traced the photo. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered into the silence. "I just stopped believing it was possible." Tears slid down her cheeks as she clutched the photo to her chest. Meanwhile, Ethan returned to his penthouse to find Arthur waiting. His father's face was stern, unyielding. "End this nonsense," Arthur demanded. "The girl is not a Caldwell. She never will be. And that woman, she will destroy everything you've worked for." Ethan's chest burned. For the first time in his life, he didn't flinch under his father's shadow. "You destroyed enough already," Ethan said coldly. 17 years ago, I let you control me. Never again. Isabella and Amelia are mine, and I'll fight for them, even if it means walking away from this empire." Arthur's face darkened, but Ethan walked past him, determination replacing the weight of fear. That evening, Amelia returned from her breakfast with Ethan, her voice steady. "Mom, you have to talk to him. You can't keep punishing him forever." Isabella bristled. "I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting us." "No," Amelia said firmly. "You're protecting yourself from getting hurt again. But I'm the one who's been hurt most by all the silence, all the secrets. I deserve parents who fight for me, and for each other." Her words pierced deeper than anything Ethan had said. Isabella's defenses began to crumble. That night, Isabella lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Amelia's words echoed in her mind. Ethan's question haunted her. "Do you still love me?" The truth was undeniable. She did love him, but fear shackled her heart. At the same time, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, Amelia's message still glowing on his phone. He wanted to call to beg Isabella to let him in, but pride and fear held him back. Two broken hearts, both longing, both terrified, drifting further apart. The shatter was complete. At this point, if you were in Isabella's shoes, still in love but terrified of being hurt again, would you risk it all and confess, or keep the walls up to protect yourself? Isabella tossed and turned, the weight of Amelia's words pressing heavy on her chest. She sat up in bed, staring at the moonlight spilling across the floor. Her heart whispered the truth she'd been denying for so long. "I love him. I always have." But then fear surged back. Memories of standing alone, pregnant, abandoned, ridiculed by the Caldwell family. Her fists clenched around the blanket. "I can't go through that again," she whispered. Still, she couldn't erase the image of Ethan's face when he asked, "Do you still love me?" Across the city, Ethan stood before his bathroom mirror, his reflection gaunt from sleepless nights. For once, he didn't see the powerful CEO. He saw a man stripped bare, haunted, desperate, and aching for what truly mattered. He spoke to his reflection like a challenge. "If you walk away now, you'll be just like him. Cold, empty, alone." The word alone echoed, stabbing through the silence. He picked up his phone, thumb hovering over Isabella's number. But he froze. She needed to choose him, not be forced into it. He set the phone down, jaw tight. The next morning, Amelia padded into the kitchen where Isabella sat with untouched coffee. "Did you sleep?" Amelia asked gently. Isabella shook her head. "No." Amelia sat across from her. "I met Dad yesterday. Just me and him." Isabella's eyes widened. "You what?" "Don't be mad. I needed to hear from him directly. And, Mom," Amelia's voice softened, "he's not the same man he was 17 years ago. He's different. He wants us." Isabella's throat tightened. "And if he hurts us again?" Amelia reached for her hand. "Then we'll survive. But don't you think we deserve the chance to try?" Isabella pressed her hands to her face, torn apart inside. Her daughter was right, yet the risk terrified her. "What if I open my heart again?" Isabella whispered. "And it kills me when he leaves?" Amelia squeezed her hand tighter. "What if you don't? And it kills you anyway, knowing you let him slip away?" The words hit like lightning. Isabella lowered her hands, staring at her daughter in awe. When had Amelia become so wise? If you were Isabella, would you listen to your daughter's plea and take the leap of faith? Or would you stay guarded to avoid repeating old pain? Ethan sat in his boardroom the next morning, surrounded by polished executives droning on about quarterly profits. Their words washed over him like static. None of it mattered. His gaze drifted to the window, the skyline gleaming under the sun. But for the first time, the towers felt empty, meaningless. When the meeting ended, Arthur pulled him aside. "You're distracted," his father barked. "You need to end this nonsense with that girl and her mother. They're a liability." Ethan turned slowly, his voice cold and firm. "They're not a liability. They're my family. And if you can't accept that, then maybe I don't need this company anymore." Arthur's face twisted in rage. "You'd throw everything away for them?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "I'd throw everything away for her, for both of them, because without them, all of this means nothing." It was the first time Ethan had truly chosen love over legacy, and it terrified him almost as much as it freed him. At home, Amelia packed her school bag, moving slower than usual. She caught Isabella watching her from the doorway. "Mom," Amelia said softly, "I know you're scared, but so am I, and maybe we'll always be a little scared. But we can't let fear make every choice for us." Isabella swallowed, her eyes stinging. "When did you get so wise?" Amelia smiled faintly. "When I had to grow up without a dad." The words stung, but also opened a window of truth Isabella could no longer ignore. That evening, Ethan made a decision. He drove not to his penthouse, not to his office, but to Isabella's modest apartment. He stood at her door, heart hammering, knowing she might not even let him in. He raised his hand to knock, then froze as the door opened. Isabella stood there, startled, as if she had been about to step out. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, both caught between longing and fear. "I shouldn't have come," Ethan said hoarsely. "But I couldn't stay away." Isabella's lips parted, words failing her. He stepped inside, his voice trembling. "I need to say this, even if you slam the door in my face after. I love you, Isabella. I always have. And I love Amelia more than I thought I could love anyone. I don't care what it costs me. I don't care if my father disowns me or if the whole world thinks less of me. I want you. I want us." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan," he stepped closer, "but I can't keep begging if you don't feel the same. So tell me, do you still love me? Or should I walk away for good?" The silence stretched, heavy and raw. Isabella's chest rose and fell, every word caught in her throat. She wanted to scream yes, to tell him she had never stopped loving him. But fear strangled her. She turned away, whispering, "I don't know if I can survive it if you hurt us again." Ethan's voice broke. "Then let me prove I won't." Her tears spilled over, her body trembling. But still, she couldn't say the words he needed. Ethan's shoulders slumped. "That's my answer then." He turned, walking toward the door. Each step felt like a knife through her chest. Just as Ethan reached for the handle, Amelia's voice rang out from the hallway. "Don't you dare leave." Both adults froze. Amelia stood there, eyes blazing, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You're both cowards," she cried. "You love each other, but you're so scared you'd rather destroy us than fight for us. Do you have any idea what that does to me? To watch you throw away the only family I've ever dreamed of." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "If you walk out that door, Dad, then don't expect me to forgive either of you." The room fell silent, her ultimatum hanging in the air like thunder. If you were Amelia, would you have stepped in and forced them to face the truth? Or would you have stayed quiet and let them figure it out on their own? The room felt charged, like lightning had struck inside it. Amelia's words lingered, vibrating in the silence. Isabella stood frozen, her chest heaving. Ethan's hand still hovered over the doorknob, his back stiff, torn between leaving and turning back. Finally, Isabella whispered, "Amelia," but her daughter shook her head, voice fierce through tears. "No, don't Amelia me. I'm tired of secrets. I'm tired of lies. I'm tired of watching both of you hide behind fear while I'm stuck in the middle." Her voice broke into a sob. "I just want a family. Don't take that away from me because you're both too scared to admit the truth." Isabella sank into a chair, her hands trembling. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You don't know what it was like back then. How they humiliated me. How they threw me out like trash." Ethan turned slowly, his face pale. "And I let them. I was weak. I failed you." Her eyes met his, raw with pain. "And how do I know you won't fail us again?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice breaking. "Because I know what it feels like to lose you, and I would rather die than feel that again." He sank to his knees before her, his pride stripped away. "I was a boy back then, Isabella. I let my father control me, but I'm not that boy anymore. I've built an empire, faced sharks, enemies, the press, but none of it terrified me like standing here right now, begging you to believe me." His eyes glistened. "I love you. Not the memory of you, not the idea of you, the real you. The you who raised Amelia with nothing, who sacrificed everything, who still takes my breath away 17 years later." He reached for her trembling hands. "Please, let me love you. Let me love her. Let me make this right." Tears spilled down Isabella's cheeks, her hands shaking in his. Every part of her wanted to say yes, to collapse into him, to let him erase the years of pain. But the voice of fear still whispered, "What if he leaves again? What if it destroys you both?" She pulled her hands back, clutching them to her chest. "I don't know if I can trust you, Ethan." His voice softened, almost a whisper. "Then don't trust my words. Trust my actions. Let me show you, day after day, that I won't leave." Her lips trembled, silence stretching. Amelia stepped forward, her voice raw. "Mom, if you can't do it for yourself, then do it for me. I need him, and I need you to stop running from him." Her plea cut deeper than any argument. Isabella looked at her daughter, then back at Ethan, on his knees, broken, waiting. Her heart cracked open. The walls she'd built for 17 years finally began to crumble. Would you take the risk and open your heart after years of betrayal and fear? Or would you keep the walls up to protect yourself and your child? The room was so quiet Isabella could hear the pounding of her own heart. Ethan knelt before her. Amelia's eyes burned into her, and the weight of 17 years pressed down like a mountain. Her lips trembled. "I've lived my whole life preparing for you to break me again." Ethan's eyes glistened. "And I've lived mine regretting that I let you go once. Don't make me regret it twice." A sob escaped her throat. She covered her face with her hands. "I can't." Amelia's small but steady voice cut through. "Mom, you already have." Isabella lowered her hands. Her daughter's tears mirrored her own. Something shifted inside her, a fragile but undeniable courage. She turned to Ethan, voice shaking. "I do still love you. I never stopped. But if you ever leave us again, it will destroy me." Ethan's chest heaved, relief and anguish colliding. He lifted her trembling hands to his lips. Then I'll spend every day proving I never will. Not again. Not ever. For the first time in 17 years, Isabella let herself fall forward into his arms. His embrace was fierce, desperate, filled with the promise of a man who had finally chosen love over fear. Amelia watched, tears spilling down her cheeks. For years, she had fantasized about this moment. Her parents in the same room, not fighting, not broken, but holding each other. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You have no idea how long I've wanted this." Ethan pulled her into their embrace, wrapping both mother and daughter against his chest. "Then it's yours. For as long as I breathe, Amelia, it's yours." The three of them clung together, trembling but whole in a way they hadn't been before. Later that night, they sat together at the kitchen table, the silence no longer heavy but fragile, tentative. Isabella held Ethan's hand, hesitant but real. Amelia sat beside them, leaning into Ethan's shoulder. "Where do we go from here?" Isabella asked quietly. Ethan squeezed her hand. "One day at a time. No grand promises, no illusions. Just us. Together." Amelia smiled faintly. "That's all I want." Before leaving that night, Ethan turned at the doorway, his eyes locked on Isabella's. "I'll be back tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. I don't care how long it takes, Isabella. I'll be here until you don't doubt me anymore." Isabella's throat tightened. For the first time, his words didn't sound like empty promises. They sounded like truth. She nodded, tears glistening. "Okay, do you believe people can truly change after years of regret? Or should love always be cautious about giving second chances?" The following week, Ethan stood in front of a press conference, cameras flashing, reporters shouting. His father sat in the front row, face like stone. Ethan adjusted the microphone, his gaze steady. "For years, I let other people dictate my choices, my family, my legacy, my fear. But today I choose for myself." He paused, the silence electric. "I have a daughter. Her name is Amelia. And I am proud of her, proud to be her father. And I love her mother, Isabella, more than words can say." Gasps rippled through the crowd. His father's face reddened, but Ethan didn't falter. "If the cost of loving them is losing everything else, then I'll pay it gladly." The flashbulbs exploded, but for the first time, Ethan didn't care. He was free. Isabella sat at home with Amelia watching the broadcast live. Her breath caught as Ethan spoke her name, her daughter's name, before the world. Tears streamed down her face. He did it. Amelia clutched her hand. "He chose us, Mom. Not them. Us." Isabella's heart thundered. For 17 years, she had doubted him. But here he was, risking everything to prove her wrong. That evening, Ethan arrived at the apartment, exhaustion etched into his face. "I don't know what tomorrow will look like," he admitted. "The board might revolt. My father might cut me off. But none of that matters, because I meant every word." Isabella's eyes shimmered with tears. "Why now, Ethan? Why risk everything now?" He stepped closer, his voice raw. "Because I realized something. Success means nothing if I'm coming home to an empty life. I'd rather lose the world than lose you again." Isabella studied him, her heart trembling. For the first time, the fear didn't drown her. It felt smaller, weaker, against the strength of his conviction. She reached up, cupping his face in her hands. "I've waited 17 years to hear you say that, and I'm done running. Yes, Ethan. Yes, I still love you. And yes, I want us. All of us." Relief broke across his face, raw and unguarded. He kissed her, gentle at first, then fierce, as if 17 years of longing poured into that moment. From the doorway, Amelia grinned through tears. Finally, Ethan pulled her into their embrace. "This is it," he whispered. "No more running, no more secrets, just us." For the first time in their lives, they stood together, not as fragments of a broken past, but as a family finally whole. Would you have had the courage to risk reputation, legacy, and power the way Ethan did to publicly claim his love? Or would you have stayed safe and silent? The morning after Ethan's public confession, newspapers blared his headline across the city. Billionaire CEO claims secret daughter at press conference. Heirs no longer? Ethan Sterling chooses love over legacy. The media frenzy was unstoppable. Paparazzi camped outside Isabella's modest apartment, cameras flashing at every window. Inside, Isabella paced nervously. This is too much. Amelia shouldn't have to go through this. Ethan placed a steady hand on her shoulder. I know it's overwhelming, but I won't let them tear us apart. Let me handle it. Amelia looked up from the couch, calm in a way that surprised them both. They can say what they want. For once, I'm not ashamed. I finally have a dad, and the world knows it. Isabella's heart clenched, tears rising. Her daughter wasn't broken by the storm. She was standing taller. Later that day, Ethan sat in the boardroom, a storm of hostile faces surrounding him. His father, Arthur, glared from the head of the table. You've humiliated this family, Arthur hissed. Do you realize what you've done? The company is in jeopardy. Ethan leaned forward, calm but firm. The company will survive, but I won't sacrifice my family to keep your pride intact. A board member scoffed. Your reputation will recover, Ethan cut in, because people respect honesty more than lies. And I will run this company with the same conviction I've chosen my family. Arthur slammed his fist. If you think you can stand against me, Ethan met his father's eyes with quiet steel. I'm not standing against you. I'm standing for them. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, Arthur saw his son not as a boy to control, but as a man who could not be bent. That evening, Ethan returned to Isabella's apartment. His suit rumpled but his spirit unbroken. They'll fight me, he admitted. But I don't care. Nothing they say or do will change what I feel. Isabella searched his face, her fears still whispering. And if they force you out? If you lose everything? He took her hands in his, firm and steady. Then I'll build it all again. But this time with you and Amelia by my side. My success means nothing without you in it. Her chest tightened, the last remnants of her doubt finally breaking. You mean that? With everything I am, he whispered. At school the next day, Amelia walked into the hallways with whispers buzzing around her. Some stared, some sneered, some gawked. But for the first time, she didn't shrink. She lifted her chin and walked forward, remembering Ethan's words. I am proud of her. Her best friend, Layla, ran up wide-eyed. Is it true? He's your dad. Amelia smiled softly. Yeah, he's my dad. The words rolled off her tongue like honey, filling her with pride instead of shame. Would you have had the strength to embrace the spotlight like Amelia, or would you have hidden from the attention? Arthur Sterling summoned Ethan to the family estate. The old man's pride was wounded, his power slipping. When Ethan arrived with Isabella and Amelia by his side, Arthur's fury was palpable. You dare bring them here? He spat. This house is built on legacy, on discipline, not on scandal. Ethan stood tall, his arm protectively around Isabella. No, father. This house was built on control. And I'm done letting you use that word as a weapon. Arthur's gaze snapped to Isabella. You ruined him once, and now you'll ruin him again. Isabella trembled but met his eyes. No, I loved him once and I still do. I won't let you poison that again. Arthur scoffed, turning to Amelia. And you're nothing but a mistake. Amelia's eyes filled with tears, but before she could speak, Ethan stepped forward, fury blazing. Don't you ever speak about my daughter that way again. She is my pride, my joy, and the best thing I've ever done in my life. If you can't accept that, then you've already lost me. Arthur's lips pressed into a thin line, but the battle was over. Ethan had chosen. As they walked out of the estate, Isabella clung to Ethan's hand, her body trembling. You stood up to him, she whispered. Ethan kissed her knuckles softly. I wasn't standing up to him. I was standing for us. Always. For the first time in years, she believed him without hesitation. The chains of the past had finally snapped. Weeks later, Amelia's school hosted a parent-student celebration, a tradition she had always dreaded. This time, she walked into the gymnasium with Ethan on one side and Isabella on the other. Whispers rippled through the crowd, but Amelia stood taller, prouder. When the announcer called her name, Ethan squeezed her shoulder. "Go show them who you are." She stepped forward, smiling with a confidence she had never felt before. And when she caught her father's gaze from across the room, her chest swelled with warmth. For the first time in her life, Amelia felt whole. Later that night, the three of them sat on the balcony of Isabella's apartment, the city lights shimmering in the distance. Amelia leaned against her father's chest, half asleep. Isabella curled into his side, her fingers laced with his. Ethan whispered, almost to himself, "This is all I ever wanted. Not the money, not the empire, just this." Isabella lifted her eyes to his. "And this time you're not running?" He kissed her forehead softly. "Never again. If you were in Ethan's place, would you have cut ties with Arthur completely for the sake of your new family, or tried to keep some connection alive?" Weeks later, Ethan invited Isabella and Amelia to tour a townhouse he had quietly bought in the city. Unlike his towering penthouse, this place was warm, filled with light, with a little garden in the back. He handed Isabella the keys. "This isn't just my home, it's ours. A place where we start fresh." Isabella's throat tightened as she walked through the rooms. It wasn't the luxury that moved her. It was the thoughtfulness. A space meant for living, not showing off. Amelia's delighted squeal from upstairs sealed it. "There's a balcony, and a study, and a big kitchen. Mom, we can bake again." Isabella turned, tears in her eyes. Ethan wasn't just talking about love. He was giving them roots. Living together didn't erase years of fear overnight. Isabella sometimes woke from dreams where Ethan disappeared again, her heart racing. But every time, Ethan was there, pulling her close, whispering, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Amelia, too, had moments of doubt, sometimes asking quietly, "You won't change your mind, right?" Ethan would crouch, look her in the eyes and answer, "Not now, not ever. You're stuck with me." Each reassurance, each small act, stitched the wounds of the past tighter. Healing was messy, imperfect, but real. One evening, Isabella found herself watching Ethan as he cooked dinner. Apron on, hair slightly messy, humming softly while Amelia teased him about burning the sauce. It was such an ordinary moment, yet it made her chest ache. "You've changed," she whispered later as they cleaned up together. He smiled faintly. "No, I just finally became the man you always believed I could be." Her eyes softened. "You're doing it, Ethan. You're making me believe again." He leaned in, pressing his forehead against hers. "Then I'll never stop." Months later, Amelia performed at her school recital. As she stepped on stage, she scanned the crowd, nerves buzzing, until her eyes landed on the front row. Ethan and Isabella sat side by side, holding hands, their smiles wide and proud. Something loosened inside her. For the first time in her life, Amelia felt anchored, not just by her mother's love, but by her father's unwavering presence. When she finished her piece, the first person she looked at wasn't the audience, but Ethan. His standing ovation made her cheeks burn with joy. Afterward, she whispered to him, "I used to feel invisible. Not anymore." Ethan hugged her tightly, his voice breaking. "You'll never be invisible again." Do you believe healing comes from grand gestures, like Ethan's public confession, or from the small, daily choices that slowly rebuild trust? A year later, Amelia's high school graduation arrived, the very place where their story had begun. The auditorium buzzed with families, cameras, and proud tears. As Amelia stepped onto the stage to receive her diploma, her eyes scanned the crowd. This time, she didn't feel like the girl with a secret. She felt like the girl with a family. Ethan stood in the front row, his arm around Isabella, clapping louder than anyone. Their eyes met, father and daughter, and the moment hit them both like a circle completed. The same stage where Ethan had once frozen in shock now became the place he stood in triumph, no longer afraid of love or truth. After the ceremony, as families gathered, Arthur appeared at the edge of the crowd, older, wearier. He watched silently as Amelia laughed between her parents, her diploma clutched tight. For a moment their eyes met. Arthur's gaze softened. Not approval, not apology, but perhaps acknowledgement. He turned and walked away, leaving Ethan with the peace of knowing he no longer needed his father's validation. That evening, in their new home, they held a small celebration. Balloons, homemade food, Amelia's favorite cake. Ethan raised his glass, his voice thick with emotion. To Amelia, for her courage, her brilliance, and for teaching me what love really means. And to Isabella, for her strength, her grace, and for giving me a second chance I'll never stop earning. Isabella's eyes glistened, Amelia grinned, and together they clinked glasses. For the first time in their lives, the word family didn't feel fragile. It felt unbreakable. Later, after the guests had left and Amelia had gone to bed, Isabella and Ethan sat together on the balcony. The city hummed around them, but in their little world, it was just the two of them. Isabella rested her head on his shoulder. I was wrong all those years ago. I thought love couldn't last, that it was too dangerous. But it can. Because you proved it. Ethan kissed the top of her hair. No, Isabella, we proved it. Together. Her lips curved into a smile. Then let's never stop. As midnight fell, Ethan slipped his hand into hers. Do you remember what I told you when I came back? She nodded softly. That you'd spend every day proving you'd never leave. He smiled. And I will. For the rest of my life. Their lips met in a kiss that wasn't just passion but promise. Steady, enduring, and unbreakable. Inside, Amelia stirred in her room, smiling in her sleep as if she felt the weight of that promise too. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined them. What defined them now was love, hard-won, tested, but victorious. Do you believe in second chances at love? And if so, would you take the risk to embrace it no matter how much time has passed? Drop your comments. I will love to hear from you.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.